the world. Welcome to the Northwestern United World College Student Panel, or Davis UWC Scholar Student Panel. I'm very excited to have this very first time event. This is definitely something where we've been wanting to do this for really many years, or many times where we could share our Davis UWC Scholar United World College community with prospective students. So we're very excited to give this opportunity for you today. My name is Aaron Stafcek. I'm a Senior Associate Director of Admission here at Northwestern. I'm also the Davis UWC Scholar Liaison, which simply means I've been involved with the UWC community for a long time, really since as long as we've had one here at Northwestern, and very proud of the students that we have here. We have a community of over 90 United World College graduates just in our undergraduate population from 45 different countries and all 18 United World Colleges, which is a pretty tremendous mark that we hit this year. So we're excited to connect with you and get your questions, help you learn about the Northwestern community, and hopefully help some of you join this community in the coming years. So today we're gonna have a chance for you to ask questions of a tremendous panel of students that's joining us today from Northwestern. And I'm going to hand it off to them to introduce themselves, and then we'll just go over kind of how to get started. And definitely feel free to drop where you're from or your UWC in the chat feature. We definitely want to hear from you, know where you're from, get a sense of that, and then ultimately that's where you're going to ask your questions. And we're going to try to get to all of them today. So feel free to get going on that. But I'm going to hand it off to Martin to start us off with introductions.
Hey, yeah. Well, good morning from Evanston. I'm Martin. I'm currently junior studying Eastern European literature and global health, and I am originally from the UWC in Germany, UWC RBC, if anyone's there, hi. I also worked in the UWC in China for a year, in Changshu, and I'm super excited to answer some questions today. I'll hand it off to June.
Hi, everyone. I'm June. I'm currently a senior at Northwestern. I am studying economics and psychology, and I graduated from UWC Mostar in 2017. Also, if anyone's there, hi. And yeah, also super excited to hear what you guys have to say and what your thoughts are. Handing it off to Rodrigo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rodrigo. I'm also a senior studying in Weinberg. I graduated from Changshu in 2017 in UWC Changshu. Now I'm a senior studying political science and international studies as well. So happy to be here. I'll hand it off to Jai, I guess.
Hi, my name is Jai. I went to UWC AC, that's in Wales, 2016 to 18. And right now I'm a junior in McCormick studying industrial engineering. Yeah, good to be here. Thanks. And I think I'm gonna hand it to Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a senior majoring in economics and international studies. I graduated from UWC Maastricht in 2016, and then I took a gap year during which I did semester at sea as well. Yeah, hello to Maastricht if anyone's there. Oh, handing it to Karina. Hello, Karina.
Hi, I'm Karina. I'm a current student, also a Global Wildcat Coordinator with Martin, but I'm not a UWC alum, so I'm just helping field questions from the chat box. But I hope you enjoy today.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, so today we've got a great panel of students helping us out. We're going to answer your questions live. So in other words, we want to interact with you. So just in addition to telling us where you're from, and I'm seeing some people coming in so far from Waterford, from East Africa, the new UWC we're excited about, as well as coming in from Adriatic, so Dover. So definitely drop where you're from in there, whether it's your home country or your UWC. We want to hear from you. We also want to hear your questions. So we're definitely ready to take those questions now. So just drop them in the chat, and we'll talk about that. Today we've got, as I said, we've got 4 or 5 current students that will be ready to tell you about their Northwestern experience. So, and I even see some Maastricht coming in and others. So great. Well, let's get started maybe with a more broad question, just kind of that we would want to think about for everyone on the panel as they're in this process. But really, what for each of you do you feel like about Northwestern, did you kind of identify as a place that you might think, hey, this is where I want to be? What was it that sort of stood out for you? Let's just start with that as you're kind of thinking that way. So maybe Martin, if you want to give it a go at first and give us a little taste of why Northwestern made your list and maybe why it still does.
Well, yeah, obviously it's still on the list since I'm still here. I haven't quit yet. I applied to Northwestern because I wanted to be somewhere near like a larger city, which is perfectly covered by Chicago, being just around like I think 40 minutes away with the subway or with our bus transportation from there. But I also really looked into having a decent amount of financial aid because that's simply what I needed for me and my family, and also very well covered by Northwestern. And the last one was just because I loved having public transport. I didn't want to be trapped somewhere like in a small city, somewhere in the middle of an agricultural state. So having so much public transport available to us is really, really important. I feel, especially as an international student who's coming here without like a car or any other way to like go to other places. So yeah, I think those were like my top 3 things when I was considering Northwestern.
June or Rodrigo, you want to go next?
Oh, yes. I would reiterate everything that Martin just said. But also I think my main thing was the idea of like, I don't have like, in my interests, I don't have one particular thing, but rather I like to do a bunch of different things. And I think that's something that Northwestern really allows me to do. I'm involved in, I have 2 majors, which a lot of people do so many different things. I'm involved in so many clubs. And I think that was one big thing that I was looking for in universities, a place that would allow me to do a lot of things that are not necessarily all aligned, that sometimes diverge a lot. And I think that's really cool that I get to do that here. But yes, also the financial aid thing.
I would just add, to not repeat anything of what they said, I think something that I also was looking at when applying to Northwestern was how much resources and opportunities it has to invest into like your interest. And so just the amount of resources it has, for example, to the research is enormous. And I think that's the type of support I was also looking for. So to add on to like what Martin said, also the like how connected Northwestern is, not only geographically, but also like at a global level. It's very well connected with whatever type of work you want to do, whatever career you want to follow. That's also the type of thing I was looking for, which Northwestern had.
Jai?
Yes, I think one of the main thing is also that I wanted to be like in a town that's not in a huge city, but it's like next to it. And also I think I'm in McCormick. I think one of the things that really like attracted me with like the engineering program, it really kind of prepares you for like, looking for jobs and stuff like that. So yeah, that's also, and I also really wanted to go to a place where there's like a UWC community. I think there's more UWC people here than other places. So yeah.
Thank you. Anna, anything to add to that?
It will be hard not to repeat myself, but I would say with financial aid, obviously that is repeating something that was said, but I think it's really important, and it was really important to me after UWC that was actually financially more burdensome than I expected to be. So I'm very grateful that I was able to, or I've been able to attending Northwestern without that pressure on my shoulders so much. And I would add something that I didn't know when I was applying, but I spent my entire junior year studying abroad, and the fact that Northwestern with its financial aid is guaranteeing to provide the same support like for the family, not be able to spending more money than the student does while they're at Northwestern, meaning that they support you to go study abroad without it being more expensive, is definitely not automatic, and not every university in the US does that. So I think that's something I didn't know, but I am like very grateful that has been possible.
Thanks. I mean, I am really happy and proud that you guys all talked about that too, because again, the majority actually of our UWC community is receiving need-based financial aid. So over 60% of the students that we have from UWCs are on need-based financial aid, and that's mirrors kind of our overall Northwestern population. So that's good to understand that if that's part of your college search, that should fit right in with what we have here at Northwestern. So one of the biggest questions that's coming in from a few people, and I appreciate this one, has kind of asked about this parallel between, let's say, the UWC philosophy or UWC life and Northwestern. Is there anything that any of you would share kind of in that way, or as you make that transition, what is, kind of, those are sort of two parts to the question, but kind of what is the similarities? Is there a similarity? And then kind of what is the transition, I guess, from a UWC like? And I know we spoke a little bit about, Jai, you talked about her desire to be around some other UWC students, but obviously at a place like Northwestern, you're also around people from 100 countries and 50 US states. So who would like to maybe start on that? Martin, go for it, yeah.
I think it's really hard to say that UWC and Northwestern are similar. Obviously, both of them are super different places. Like this is a whole university, whereas UWC is a high school with a very specific kind of student population. However, given that there's so many UWCers at Northwestern, I think we can kind of generate a little bit of that atmosphere here, especially when it comes to finding friends from other countries or hanging out in kind of this international community. I think that's something that can definitely happen at Northwestern. Like, for example, right now, I'm living in an apartment with 3 other people, 2 of which are UWCers. They're actually June and Rodrigo. But also just having Northwestern be such a globally oriented school is something that I very much kind of appreciate and something that I find a connection with in terms of UWC, especially when it comes to like providing opportunities to go abroad or giving the opportunity to have like international dialogue. There's a lot of talks happening on campus about interesting topics that are kind of connected to the worldwide stuff that's basically happening all around. Like there's talks by international academics, talks about stuff that is just happening. So yeah, I think also June, you were about to unmute yourself if you want to take over.
I can. I mean, you did mention a bunch of things that I wanted to mention, like especially in terms of like the international community and, like us as internationals, like you have so many opportunities to actually like be involved and like be in this kind of like multicultural background that we came from before college. But I also think another thing I wanted to say is obviously the size, like Northwestern is so much bigger than UWC. UWC is tiny. And I think that allows you to have so much more agency in terms of like your experience. I think at UWC, you have much less control over how your 2 years go, while here, like obviously it's longer, but also you have so many more opportunities and so much more flexibility to actually do the stuff you want to do, try out new things. Like there's so many more general opportunities to take control of your life as a student. And I think that's super cool.
I would also add that like as a student at Northwestern, you also have way more autonomy than at UWC, just because you have so many more opportunities that it's like on your end to decide what activities you're going to engage with. And so you kind of could tailor a UWC-like experience, but it's not necessarily that Northwestern is going to shape it to be that way. It's that just there's so many opportunities and like the range of fields that you can enter is just so much more diverse and specialized that if you want to have a purely academic experience, you can. And like if you want to have like opportunities that were not really present in UWC, you're going to have way more availability to engage with those here at Northwestern.
Great. Well, I think those are some good start. We got more questions coming in, so I don't want to, we can keep it moving a little bit. So the next one that student asked about, Yash asked about was different courses. Can you share maybe a course that you loved or a course that you find really interesting at Northwestern that you've taken so far? Jai, maybe you could start. I know you've been in that engineering, DTC or something else, but what would you say about that?
Yeah, I think so. In McCormick, there is definitely a lot of like very interesting and practical, like STEM related classes, which I think not all of UWC have. So I find that very exciting. And DTC is definitely one of it. It's called Design Thinking and Communication. It is basically you work on a client project that's like real from like outside client and you develop something for them. It's a really interesting like testing and building process. And which is also interesting is that there is a class related to DTC. It's called Design Your Life, I think. I haven't taken it personally, I won't, but it's kind of like using that process to look at things in your life, which again, I think is interesting.
Very cool. I like that. And I've also heard of a class through our engineering school that's like called whole body thinking, because we have this whole brain thinking, but they have like ballroom dancing and other things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, check that out. It's
Okay.
the Office of Personal Development. Yeah.
Nice.
What about Anna? Maybe do you have a class that you can share with us that you remember?
Yeah, I think actually I have a few. One that me and Rodrigo took together was black and white film photography, which is obviously totally unrelated to what I'm majoring in. But I think it was really special because I learned things that I would not have learned otherwise. And as my Northwestern career is coming to slowly coming to an end, I feel like some of those classes are actually the ones that will be like with its impact will be the longest because I will not get access to those things otherwise. So yeah, that's one. Another one, I would say me and Rodrigo are taking Introduction to Programming this term, and as non-McCormick majors, I think that's another like exposure to something that I think is very relevant in the world right now, but we would not have probably learned otherwise.
Yeah, great. Any other classes? I know this is a good topic. So any other one-off classes that someone would like to share? Yeah.
I really love taking a qualitative methods research course, which kind of sounds boring, but basically the class was about learning how to do actual research in anthropology or in medical anthropology. And the whole quarter I just spent interviewing my roommates and like observing them, doing field notes, doing life history interviews. It was really fun because it was such a hands-on kind of thing. And even though it was online at that time, I felt like I was actually doing a lot for that class and learning something in my own personal space. And it was just like really fun observing my flatmates, what they're doing like under very large scrutiny and just like writing down everything which they did. So yeah, that was definitely a fun class.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that we have a special segment on our YouTube channel called NU in 2, and that is also one of the questions is what classes. So if you're interested in spending 2 minutes watching that, you can learn about a couple other cool classes like Marriage 101. I think Karina also put in the chat, which is a funny one, learning about relationships and how to make them last. But one of the questions that came in was related to this was just this idea that as a Northwestern student, you do generally are part of one. You're part of Northwestern, you choose one of the 6 schools to be your home, sort of home base. But as you heard probably, from all of our panelists, you can take classes in any of the 6 undergraduate schools. In fact, most students take classes in multiple. In fact, a lot of students take classes at one point in their career at Northwestern in all of them. And you can even double major across, again, the different schools. So you can actually create certain combinations. And I think that's something that's been a big part of why students choose Northwestern as well. So just I know that came in as a question. So absolutely, you can do that. And as you heard, students are taking classes not just in their own program. So another question that's been coming in is about financial aid. I'll just answer this quick before we get back to the panel. Again, we approach financial aid with a need-based lens. So we're looking at making sure everyone can afford the education. We review your application, need aware, which if you're an international student, so meaning if you're not a US citizen, US permanent resident, or US dual citizen, then you're reviewed need aware. But as you can see, that doesn't prevent or stop a lot of students from getting the chance to be admitted. The financial aid award is all scholarship. So no loans, no work, 100% scholarships or grants as we call them, Part of that will potentially be the Davis UWC Scholar Fund, which is a need-based grant that Northwestern gets up to about $25,000 to apply toward your overall financial aid package. So that's something where you maybe would see that on your financial aid award. We have scholarships and grants that also are Northwestern grants or named scholarships for certain alumni who contributed. So all of those things could make up that big scholarship package. And that does include a budget for tuition, room and board, transportation, books and supplies, personal expenses, health insurance, fees. So it's a comprehensive financial aid award to make sure that, again, you think about what the actual cost would be to go to the university for a given year. And it is a 4-year award, meaning once we tell you what your family has to pay, you can know that that's what it's going to be for 4 years. And then Northwestern will continue to increase that scholarship each year. All right, so we've got a lot of other great questions coming in. One of the questions was about research. Maybe we could talk a little bit about research. Anyone who's done research, I know Martin has a good line about non-lab research, because it's not all about being in the lab, but who would like to talk a little bit about research? Yeah. Maybe Martin, you kick it off then.
Sure. Yeah. No, I just make it my whole point always to like point out that it's not only always research in like science labs or bio labs or other like McCormick related stuff. Research is also for all other majors. For example, I had the opportunity to work with a professor of mine on like medieval German and like poetry, which he's using to like work on his other research about like Russian kind of metaphysical texts or something like that. So that's, for example, an opportunity where I had the chance to just like work closely with a professor on his own research project in a field that's not like classically considered a research field. I also had the chance to design my own research project. Actually, I was kind of bound to go to Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina this summer and do my research there about healthcare migration to Western European countries from Bosnia. And that was kind of a thing where you apply with a project that you come up with yourself, obviously with some guidance from a faculty member. But you can like design it yourself. It's your idea. You have to execute it and write about it. And then you apply for a grant by the school and they sponsor your research in this place. So our example, I would have spent, if COVID didn't happen, I would have spent my summer doing research in Bosnia, but I just postponed it. So I'm really excited to do that next year. If anyone else has more traditional research experiences.
Yeah, I also did research with Northwestern a couple of times. Northwestern has quite a few opportunities. Like it has a undergraduate research assistant program, and then it also has grants like Martin was talking about. And then there's also classes that you can take that are purely research based. So it's a professor that's going to be guiding and orienting your research throughout the entire quarter. And because of that, it allows you to have a lot of different pools of funding to access as an undergraduate. And when you're prepared to do your own research, you can also go into that and get access to funding from that. And you can also use those resources and that experience towards your research thesis, if that's the type of field the type of thing you want to do in your last years at Northwestern. And it's not limited to one type of research, like Martin said, like it's not about lab research. You can do research. There's research in every department at Northwestern. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate the most about Northwestern, that it has so many resources and it's so focused on research. And it's always encouraging students to go into research. That's why it has all these like job openings to do research with professors. It also allows you to get closer to professors and get like a bigger insight into what the research life is post-graduation.
I'm sorry. I also wanted to say that like it might be like for people like before they come to college and thinking that research kind of like scary, I can't do it, but like really in Northwestern's like professors are really like open to you like helping with research, and you can really like do it if you don't have any previous experience. Yeah.
Great addition. Yeah, that's a great comment. In fact, the Office of Undergraduate Research is right above my office in the Office of Admission. And the director of the Office of Undergraduate Research was a theater major, but is there to assign and help you with any type of research from social science to STEM areas. And he always says there's no limit to the funding, there's no limit to the amount of research opportunities, it's just quality. So they want to help you become a good researcher. That's what they're trying to do. And so that's a good point. So a lot of good questions coming in. One, I think we'd like to take in a direction of campus life. Again, for those people who've never been here, what is sort of the campus like, the dorms, and the food? I know food always comes up. So campus life, dorms, food, and we can expand that a little bit to kind of Evanston, Chicago too. But maybe Anna, do you want to kick us off with a little bit about life in the dorms, life with food?
It was unexpected. I didn't think you would direct that to me. I haven't been on campus for so long.
Fair enough. Yeah, so you can pass also.
No, I think my dorm experience when I had it for the first 2 years at Northwestern was pretty good. I think in terms of food, I guess that will be very relative depending on what kind of experiences people had at UWC. But for me, it was a enormous improvement from what I had in Maastricht. So I was very happy with the options at the dining halls, because I never had that at UWC. I never had that many healthy options. I would say if you want to be healthy, like, it's also on you. Obviously, there will be a lot of unhealthy options. You can pick the more healthy or the not so healthy options, but I would say for me, there were definitely more options than at UWC. So I was pretty happy.
Great. Who else would like to talk about dorms, food, living?
I personally love the food on campus. We have, I don't know exactly, I think 5 dining halls, 5.5. One is like split in 2 or something like that. But it's just so convenient to be able to literally go out at like 11 p.m. I think they were open until around 11 midnight, back when COVID wasn't a thing. And there's just like such a wealth of options. Like, I remember in UWC we had like 2 options, like vegetarian and non-vegetarian. Maybe there was even a vegan option sometimes when you were lucky. But here there's like 15 stations all over the dining hall, and you just like get whatever you want. And as Anna said, it ranges from just pizza every day to like very specialized salads. But yeah, I really enjoyed that. And in terms of the dorms, there's also, I would say, a pretty wide range of options there. Our 2 main kind of conglomerations of buildings are like North Campus and South Campus. North Campus is more kind of STEM oriented. There's also more parties happening there. It's kind of like the social hub, I would say, of campus. And then South Campus is usually where all the humanities classes are. And the dorms, you kind of have to do your research there. I assumed that all dorms would be the same, and I didn't do any research. I put random, and I got put into a dorm that I didn't enjoy that much. But having seen dorms from my friends, I was absolutely amazed how nicely they were living. So yeah, you definitely kind of have to like look around, scavenge a little bit in the information, like look at some pictures, and you can definitely live luxuriously if you choose right.
Thank you. Yeah, and now some of you are living off campus. Obviously, pandemic times in general, that can be the case. But if we go a little step further, what about Evanston? Kind of that maybe June or Rodrigo talk a little about that living off campus. It's often just as close as living in the dorm as you become a 3rd year, typically, or a 4th year, choosing to do that, and then kind of how that allows you to interact with Evanston, which is essentially across the street.
I think, honestly, and I wanted to add that to what Martin said before. I mean, he mentioned that like North Campus is more of like a social hub in terms of like within the campus. I'd agree, but I think South Campus, which is where I lived for like my whole Northwestern career, is so much more connected to Evanston. And I think that has added so much to my experience, like feeling like I'm not like in an isolated campus, but rather I live in a town. And we currently live like pretty south of the campus, and so we're very much downtown Evanston, and we very often go, and like when the weather's nice, we go and sit at the square. We like go and get coffee like almost on the daily at a cafe that's not too far from here. We like can bike around, like everything is very accessible, and it's very small town, you know, atmosphere, but it's really like there's all the little things that you might be looking for. And I think it's really nice to have that rather than just being on campus. I think the first couple of years is very much that of like, you know, going to the student center, going to all of the little Northwestern facilities. But then as you like explore Evanston, there's a bunch of things that you can do. And like, you can find anything that you're looking for almost. And if not, you just take the train to Chicago and there's everything there.
I would just add that like, there's like benefits of living on campus and there's benefits of living off campus. Like, I feel like one of the drawbacks of living on campus is that you don't get to engage with Evanston as much as you could, which really changes once you move off campus, especially because it's much more affordable to live off campus. So you get all these opportunities that June was talking about that are not that readily available when you're like enclosed on campus and only like seeing people from campus. But because of that, it also allows you to engage more and get to know more students and engage more with the on-campus life. So it kind of prepares you to go to that off-campus life. So it's kind of a nice transition.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, our requirement is that you live on campus for 2 years prior to making a choice. You could stay on campus all 4 years or 3 of the 4 years. It's totally up to you. It's never an issue. But a lot of students do make that choice. And I think that is kind of that. It's binding you together with the traditions and the things that we're doing as students, getting to know people, and then kind of allowing you to choose how you want to grow and adapt. And I think one of the things Martin pointed out, that one of the big pluses about the Northwestern sort of living scene is that there isn't one type of living. First-year students can live with upperclassmen students. First-year students can live with only first-year students. So you can live with people in different thematic scenarios. You can be around faculty or not. You can kind of choose the type of living situation. Sometimes that is about your view, parking lot or lake, but most of the time it's more about the type of actual experience you're having and kind of where you want to be. But there's such a variety, and that again informs the sort of experience that you're going to have, and that's important. So speaking of some of those campus experiences, students want to know about traditions. Maybe if one of you will keep things moving. Jai, do you want to tell us about maybe a tradition that you've engaged with at Northwestern, or one of your favorite traditions at Northwestern, or if someone else wanted to jump on that too? We like our traditions here. So that could be dance marathon, primal scream, march the arch, whatever it might be. Jai, you got it.
I think like tradition wise it doesn't like, so there are like whole like traditions for the entire Northwestern, like dance marathon and stuff. There's also traditions in like maybe the communities that you choose to involve in. A lot of it is like your dorms, like a lot of dorms that are like themed. I used to be in like a science and engineering themed dorm, and that's got like a lot of weird and quirky stuff. So yeah, that's fun if you like that.
Good, yeah. And yeah, what about some of those larger campus traditions too? Anyone want to talk about their experience with that, painting the rock or running on the football field or any of those things?
I think my favorite one, and I'm very much biased when it comes to this, but my favorite one is Dillo Day because I'm on the Northwestern group that actually organizes Dillo. It's called Mayfest, and like I've been on it since freshman year. And we organized Dillo Day. For those who don't know, is the Northwestern music festival that we run every year at the end of the year. And it's one of the most attended events at all of Northwestern, and it's super fun. And I think being part of the organizing team is like one of the best things that I've been doing here. It's so fun. It's so so rewarding to be able to do something like that. And I think that's definitely my favorite Northwestern tradition. I look forward to it every year when it's not COVID times.
Yeah, lots of great music going on in normal times, and certainly on the campus and then around Chicagoland, whether it's Lollapalooza or all the other great concerts. Again, one of the best places to see blues and jazz music. And we actually have a jazz program here at Northwestern. So many different ways to see, to be part of that. Martin, you got something?
Yeah, I was also going to mention, I think one of the most popular traditions that we have is painting the rock, which is, well, we paint a rock, basically. It's like a rock in the middle of campus. And the tradition around it is that students have to guard the rock for 24 hours beforehand in order to be able to paint the rock. So like no matter what time of the year you're able to see students just being there in their tents, like overnight, camping on campus, in order to be able to paint the rock. And it's used for all sorts of, like, let's say, advertisements. Some people write birthday wishes on it. It's kind of also like a place to show off student activism. So all sorts of people guard the rock and then are able to paint it. And I think it's also like one of the coolest traditions because it's just, first of all, so old. Second of all, like everyone can do it, no matter what, like who you are. If you're like in a group, or if you want to do it by yourself, or if you want to make a statement, you can always do it. And it's just really fun to see how the rock grows over the years, because there's so many layers of paint on it. At this point, it's almost like ball shaped because of all the paint. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, Martin. I think that I was on a call the other day with some students from Turkey, and one of the alumni who was joining us had a picture from 1981 of when he painted the rock. So he still had it available right there on the call. So that was pretty impressive. Thinking about it, still even 40 years later or whatever it might be. So it's been around. Just following up on a couple other things that I think people have found important or want to know more about Northwestern as we kind of continue with a little bit of student life. How would you say your interaction has been? Obviously, your UWC students, many of the UWC students are international. Of course, some are from the US as well. But how does your relationship work then with other international students, that you've met who obviously aren't from UWC? I think that's different than a lot of other US universities, or some. Obviously, there's a lot of other international students who are not associated with UWC students. And then, of course, your American classmates as well. Kind of a little bit about that interaction and that I guess the diversity that you've encountered at Northwestern, kind of those two things. So anyone would like to jump in on that?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about like finding friends both from UWC and from the US. For the longest time, especially my first year when I was kind of trying to find my own community, trying to fit into Northwestern, I'll definitely say that a large majority of my friends were other international students, as well as UWC students, both from, let's say, the UWC circles that I was in and the International Student Association that I was part of in my freshman and my sophomore year. So that was a big source of my friends. But then after I kind of like settled in and felt more comfortable with Northwestern and like just living in the US, I definitely branched out. And I would say like nowadays, my friend groups would be like 50-50, like half American, half international. But I also have many friends that are almost exclusively friends with other Americans or other internationals. So it's very much up to you kind of what sort of community you want to surround yourself with and like what your friend group needs to look like for you to be comfortable here at Northwestern.
Yeah, who else would like to talk about that? Yeah, go ahead, June.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna like kind of maybe repeat a bit of what he said, but yeah, it's definitely like, I think it was very much a thing for like most of us that like we gravitated towards UWCers and internationals when we got here. I think, out of comfort and out of like, it's like you find each other, and then we all found each other and we're still all friends since freshman year. But I think there's definitely like a really good balance of other internationals. I think the international orientation at the beginning of freshman year actually really helps to connect with other internationals and not just stick with UWCers. And I think that's like also where we met a lot of our friends and sorry about that. And that's how you socialize a lot with the rest of the diverse Northwestern community. But definitely, as Martin said, with time, like as you get involved with different clubs, as you go to classes, you really get to like mingle with like you see like even the diversity within the US, and you get to, you know, talk to people who've had all these different experiences, internationals or not. And yeah, that's definitely like, it's very, there's everything. And it's like you, as we said before, you have control over how much you want to be involved with just the internationals, or like, I don't want anything to do with any of the internationals. Like it's up to you.
Jayi or Anna, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think for me it's a little bit different. I'm in McCormick. I think McCormick is a pretty small school, so like everyone kind of just like take all the same classes, and like you literally know everyone in McCormick, and that's pretty nice. And like you make friends from like doing a lot of like project work that's like within like your school. You also have a lot of friends, and I think it's really nice at some point, like you know, when you have like a certain friend group or something like that later in your Northwestern years, you like come across with someone new, and oh, they happen to went to UWC. That's like also really nice.
Great. Yeah, I think one of the things, actually, the other day we were on a program. Sorry to reference it. I've been on so many Zoom calls, but it was actually Alvin, who's another UWC student. I think he said it really well, is that you're going to have different groups that relate to your Northwestern experience, and then your identity, obviously, you know, will connect to all of those things. So as we just heard, to your school, to your living arrangements, to your extracurricular life, like the clubs or organizations that you begin to go with, to whatever else you identify with. So maybe it is the UWC community, we have organization and gatherings, or it's the larger international community, be it part of the International Student Association or something like that. Or it's because of your individual culture identity. If you are from a certain background, we have different various groups that connect there, your religious background, your ethnic background. So I think that's where you begin to realize that you aren't just one person and one experience, and that you kind of connect in all these different ways. And that really does sort of create the Northwestern experience in a combination factor. Anyone else, any other last comments on that? Otherwise, I'll move topics. Okay, all right, good. One of the other things that students were asking a little bit about was, you know, I think the class, the actual, again, back to this idea of the classes themselves. So I guess two questions that I'll kind of bring up a little bit are related to one for McCormick, you know, this idea of, you know, I think theoretical versus practical. Well, I mean, we can definitely say we know some of the answer to that being, you know, there's certainly some applied work right away in your first year, but just this philosophy of whole brain thinking, what's that McCormick philosophy like in terms of how to get that, apply the work. And then the second that others could address too is just this idea of crossing boundaries. You're in arts and science, you know, but what else have you done? Or did you move schools again? Just to reinforce a little bit of that idea of the other classes and other schools or the other things that you're doing. So let's start with the McCormick piece and then we'll go from there.
I think in my own experience, McCormick is as like practical as you want to be. So, you know, certain classes are project based, not only like DTC, there's a lot of other classes that are like that, and they do try to make it really practical. And there's also programs where you can like do like work for a company for like a quarter or something like that, things like that. It's very practical, I think. And what else was there?
Just anything else about like crossing the school boundaries again?
Oh yeah, I also minor in global health studies, so you can really kind of, there's no limit as to, you know, how much you can like cross things with. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Anna, anything your experience with crossing boundaries?
I was just thinking if I ever was crossing boundaries, actually. So maybe I'm like not a good person to answer
How about
this, but
crossing departments? You definitely have done that. You definitely.
yeah, I would say actually, yeah, I think more useful is think about it not in terms of like if I took a class at McCormick. I guess maybe our programming class now is partially at McCormick. I don't know, Rodrigo. But anyways, I think more more useful to think about the departments, and obviously within Weinberg, there are so many different departments in so many different fields. So I think that maybe that's more even useful to think about it in those terms rather than in schools. But as many of you said, like you can cross the school boundaries as well. But yeah, I think for me last year I was in Oxford, where definitely much more difficult to be crossing any boundaries. So I think it's nice to like have that experience of being able to do Portuguese and programming and photography while majoring in economics. So I
Well said. Well said.
yeah, I think I value that a lot with the practical experience as well, in terms of I had a class too when we worked with a nonprofit clients in Chicago with the Chicago public school system, and we did some nonprofit consulting project for them. So that was on the practical side, but then also balance that, like if you want to have purely academic experience or purely academic courses, you can definitely have that as well. I know I'm speaking for long, but there was just one point that I wanted to add in the very beginning when you asked about transitions to Northwestern from UWC. I would say maybe one of the definitely a lot of differences and obviously challenges with that too. But I would say maybe some of the things that you found both at UWC and at the Northwestern is the sort of the cliche about academic excellence. I personally didn't actually find it at UWC as much as I was hoping to. And going to Northwestern in that sense was very, like, I want to say refreshing, but very positive in that sense, because I think I could really take courses with like amazing professors and felt like motivated and excited when I was in their classes, and felt really privileged to be able to be getting such education. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think, yeah, the challenge, right? Like, I mean, you're certainly an international baccalaureate, has the opportunity, if you engage with it, to prepare you for a place like Northwestern. But you meet students who are all around you who have prepared and are excellent, and there's no drop off. You're gonna have kind of strength across the board in all the programs and all the students you meet and the stories that are behind them. But I think, thank you, Anna, for all those are great comments. Martin or June or Rodrigo, anything else you'd like to add to either that flair of mixing or practical work, internships, anything like that? That'd be great.
Yeah, I just wanted to say how easy it was to go between majors, between schools. I came in as a biomedical engineering student, then did Middle Eastern studies for like a year and a half almost, then decided to do a 180, and now I'm doing global health and Eastern European literature. And I've definitely crossed schools and departments doing that. And I think just the fact that, for example, Anna doesn't remember that she was taking classes in another school just adds to the fact that you don't even have to think about it. Like, it just happens. You just do it. You don't have to be like, oh, now I have to register in another school and take classes there. It just like happens, and there's basically no boundaries to what you can take within Northwestern.
Great. Yeah, good. Well said too. Any other last comments, June, Rodrigo? Anything else to add to that? Otherwise, we can keep moving.
Yeah, just briefly, I did switch a lot of majors. I came in, I took a class in Medill, and so it's really easy for you to like move around schools. You just have to fill in some paperwork, and some have requirements of taking a class before you're officially in each school, but it's very easy. Like Anna said, we're also taking a programming class, which falls under McCormick, and like you can just register. You don't have to do anything to register for classes in that. So it's very easy to like take classes, and especially when you're looking to get skills that you can foster more profoundly in other schools. Like, for example, I've heard of Medill students who really want to learn how to program in order to work with like data journalism. That combination really works between like switching between McCormick and journalism. So I think that like switching in between schools and moving in between schools is something really useful, because you can also like look for specific skills or specific things that you want to learn about that are going to be useful towards your personal interests or career interests.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very good point as well. Next kind of topic that I think is, Noor's actually posed a couple of really good questions that kind of surround this concept, which is a little bit about, I think it comes down to a little bit about fit with Northwestern, but this idea of the culture, the place. So again, you've got friends at other universities. You had, obviously other UWC friends, people who've gone other places. As you kind of look at Northwestern, what is, what is the sort of what makes this place special to you? And, kind of where do you see students sort of choosing Northwestern or finding that right fit for it? And we know that sometimes it comes in advance, like you identify it based on how you connect. Other times it starts to grow on you as you're here, that you didn't realize it. But so again, kind of along those lines, what about the place, the culture here at Northwestern is special to you, and how you again see that differently than other places you have friends at? For that, again, we're not trying to make judgments that one is better than the other, but for you, whether it's again the people, the quarter system, the place, what is it that's really about this culture here that I think stands out for you and might stand out for one of the students on the show today?
I can start. I'll be short. It's reiterating some of the points we said before, but I think it's very easy for us to be taking as given and as sort of like bare minimum that Northwestern takes such pride in its UWC and international students, and that they're so committed to supporting students on financial need. But that actually, from my experience from talking to other UWC students at other US universities, is definitely not given and not automatic. And so I think I think that's really, obviously for me as an international student and as a student on financial aid, that's really important. I like to remind myself that some of the things, like for example, that Northwestern allowed me to study abroad without any like additional expenses, or for example, that Northwestern has grants for the summer for unpaid internships, and so I was able to intern in nonprofit organizations in Prague 2 summers in a row, and I definitely would not have been paid otherwise, and thanks to Northwestern I was able to being paid. So yeah, I think the support for like international students and students on financial aid is something that I'm very grateful for.
Thank you. Yeah, good point. I think the support is one of those things that you're saying, what's part of the culture, the mission, the fit here. It's certainly ideally, part of the support. Yeah, Martin, go for it.
Yeah, I've mentioned this in other panels, but I do enjoy the work hard, play hard attitude that a lot of kind of Northwestern students exhibit. So there's this very like strong culture of just trying to give your best, trying to excel in all your classes, obviously. But also I feel like Northwestern students do know how to have fun. There's always something going on in the weekends. There's always shows, there's always parties, there's always people going out somewhere. But then on Monday, you will find everyone ready to start a week of classes just to be able to have fun on the weekends again. And I think that's it doesn't work for everyone. Obviously, it's very exhausting in the long term, but I feel if you want to take the most out of any university experience, that's super possible at Northwestern with kind of the school kind of spirit, the school attitude that we have towards having fun and also giving your best in school.
Awesome. Yeah, balance. That's a big one. I think people associate that with Northwestern, whatever that might be for them. But certainly that opportunity to have a balance But I think you also alluded to a little bit of the pace, right? There is some action, sort of some vibrancy to the pace for that. And that is something people have to consider. It's not for everyone, but it will fit with a lot of people's attitudes. Junior Rodrigo, what about you?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention exactly the pace, the fast pace in a positive way, like the ability for you to engage in different groups at different times of your day. And so you go to class with one group in like McCormick, and in the afternoon you go to class in like a seminar that's on a humanities. And the fast pace kind of allows you to have all these interactions with like very different subcultures of Northwestern, which is one of the things that I appreciate the most, I think. And then like you can also go to Chicago and engage with cultures that are outside of Northwestern, which is like that fast pace really adds on to that. If you're able to take advantage of it, of course, like there's also the space for you to like disconnect from that fast pace, because for some of us it can be toxic. But there's also those spaces for you to disconnect from that. So I think that's something to really highlight from Northwestern culture.
And I think one thing that I want to add that kind of like balances out what he just said is like, and it's probably like we pride ourselves for it. And so like it's all over social media, but our campus is beautiful. We have like, it's very big. It's not a very big university in terms of the number of students compared to other universities, but the campus is like really big, and it's really like spread like north to south. And we have a huge lake fill, and it's just beautiful. And it's so nice to go for walks, go for runs, go for bike rides, like whenever the weather is nice, obviously, which is not all the time, unfortunately. But we really like, there's so much. I think it's something that a lot of people take for granted, like when you're walking down the street, and it's actually like super well maintained. Like there's beautiful lights on one of our libraries. Like it's something that I really appreciate. And every once in a while, I'll be like going through that fast-paced life, and then I'll stop and like be like this. It's nice. They really give you a beautiful environment to be doing all this stuff in, and like time to get some fresh air, and like space, like so much space and greenery. And I think that's something that like it's really nice, like at Northwestern, and I think it's pretty unique.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that campus, filling you with pride for that campus, walking around. I mean, everywhere I go in the world, the having basically an ocean in front of you, so water as far as you can see it's unique. There's not many places like that. And at one point in your time, you will sit there and just stare out and say, this is mine, and that's pretty nice. What about you? Last thoughts on that, Jai? Anything that you would share about that?
I think one thing that I like really enjoy about Northwestern is like I feel like I'm really supported in like every way possible, whether it's academically or just like health-wise, like mental health and everything. So I think UWC like just like kind of like opened up my world to me. And then at Northwestern, you can like feel free to like explore all the possibilities, and you always like support it. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. So I think, again, we've covered a lot of topics today, and we're excited to let you know that, again, this will be recorded, and ultimately we'll put out for you on YouTube, our YouTube channel, this UWC specific session. So you'll have the chance to learn more about this if you didn't catch everything the first time, share it with some of your friends. And there are a lot of other ways to continue to connect with us over the next few weeks or months, depending on where you are in your search or year. And we're gonna encourage you to check out that YouTube channel, our admission sessions. We have other student panels, tours going on, a lot of specialty programs for different schools. This digital sort of virtual environment has really allowed us to showcase, we hope, Northwestern's diversity and the voices in ways that we weren't always able to do. So we do encourage you to kind of keep engaging. I would say as an admission officer going forward, I'm looking forward to the next group of UWC applications. Early decision is coming up, deadline in a few weeks. And there's always a few UWC students choosing Northwestern first choice. So we're excited to see that. And then of course, a lot of students coming in the regular pool. We will probably have some other UWC visits and different things happening over the next few weeks as well. So always check in And you've heard it already, but Global Wildcats, just search that. It's usually the first thing that comes up. Make sure it's Northwestern. But that's a chance for you to connect with other students, ask questions, Martin and Karina and all of the other volunteers. But that's another great way to stay in touch. So with that, I'd like to thank you for all joining us. I'd like to thank our panel for all of their insights into the Northwestern and UWC experience. We hope that you are safe and well. We know these are difficult and challenging times, and unlike any other, and we're all going through something unprecedented, and not just with the pandemic, but of course with all the other issues that people may be facing in their own individual community and country that vary quite distinctly. But there are also some themes that we're all also facing just with human dignity and social justice. So I hope that all, that you all are well and stay well. And we look forward to staying in touch and wish you well in your U.S. university search. So with that, I'll say good night or good morning or goodbye, and look forward to staying connected. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.